The market had some interesting twists and turns today. And then we had earnings from two of the Mag 8, and after hours, we're seeing a meh response. Microsoft is up with a beat across the board. Google beat top and bottom line, but missed on cloud storage, so it's being punished. All that being said, the earnings were fine, and I think that continues. The beat kind of goes on. The bull will not be interrupted in any way, shape, or form. This is Randy Kirk, bringing you some kind of market news this afternoon because I thought it was important. Plus, I'm going to dig deep into some content that I've been thinking about for a while that I hope you'll find it interesting. Let me know if you want to wait and like it later, because I'm kind of interested to see if you do like it, or you could just comment and say, you know, Randy, that was some good stuff. Anyway, like, subscribe, notify. You want to hit notify because tomorrow, of course, we're going to be having regular content in the morning, but we do the midweek results in the afternoon. And you do want to listen to what Brian White said earlier today in our discussion about the macro. He had some very interesting takes on that. I'll put a card on that later on. And we've got significant reports that came in today that I'll be reporting on tomorrow. And then earnings later in the day on as well. A lot of earnings tomorrow. A lot of people coming in tomorrow. So I'll be very interested to see how all that plays out. Okay. I'd also like to thank these longtime Patreon members real quick. So thankful for you guys. Mark M, Paul T, Alex L, and Al H. You know, down below in the description, you'll find out how you can join and help support the channel. I appreciate the folks in Patreon more than I can really express. So, and then of course, you know, you could buy one of these too. That would help support the channel as well and make the friends who you buy these for really thrilled. Okay, as the earnings roll in, the evidence continues to build. We are not going to have a recession, but we are also not going to have a robust economy either. We might actually have a strong 2024, except for what the Fed has done. So on the other hand, there might be some wisdom in there, higher for longer theory, because maybe if the economy continues with the gains at these levels at 4 or 5% a month, maybe we could turn too hot, putting strains on some resources, especially in services and some of the areas that have absolute limits, such as travel. You know, as the world gets richer and richer, more folks are traveling like crazy, and they're fighting over limited destinations, which is driving up prices, and in some cases, causing some places like Venice, Italy, is like saying, we can't even handle any more people. We're going to have to put limits on the number of people that get into Venice on any single day. I think that's also New Orleans. Last time I was down there a couple of years ago, a few years ago, they were saying they might have to start charging for people to come onto the main drag in New Orleans because it's just jammed, just elbow to elbow. It's just crazy. You can't even get in there. All right. So on the other hand, we're likely to see some outsized productivity benefits in the near term from GPT and related AI developments. And in the long term, from advances from we've got advances coming in everything from medicine, transportation, energy. Those are three of the biggest components of the economy, and the amazing productivity benefits that are coming are breathtaking in their scope. Of course, robotaxi and Optimus might change everything in the longer term when labor becomes a whole nother. So that would be a big productivity change. All right. As for today, there was good earnings across the board. Lots and lots of people coming in with beats. 30 yields continue to drop, and they're continuing in the after hours. Another 2 basis points dropping in the after hours. Oil is dropping. It's down to $84 now, dropped big today. And things are looking very good going into the CPE reading on Friday. I suspect the market will do well until then. And if the CPE is about as predicted or better, we are really off to the races for both the market and for Tesla. A miss, of course, on Friday on the CPE will slow things down for a while. And then, of course, next week we do have the Fed speaking, but I think that's a fait accompli. Anyway, let's get it. We're going to get deeper and deeper here. So this deep dive I wanted to take you on is going to be talking about a unique set of circumstances that seem to be befuddling almost all of the economists and the analysts. For 18 months, we've been under the threat of runaway inflation that never happened. We've been under the threat of rapidly increasing interest rates, which happened, but then it wasn't a threat. And then some kind of recession, and that threat's never developed. And the only thing that we've actually had to endure was that dramatic escalation in interest rates. We had this transitory inflation, was a serious pain, but it's gone. So yeah, what's all the fuss about? Anyway, Elon has even been recently, well, he's been worried about a recession for a long time. He thought it was going to be a very big crash. He continues to be concerned. He does have this kind of worry side of him, and that's probably good that he's gun shy about things that could blow up his company. And his main concerns now, I think, are from government spending and from borrowing. And I think I can agree with him on those. I think those are the biggest issues, but those will be kicked down the road. I guarantee you, they will not be dealt with in 2024. Not a chance, not in an election year. So that's going to be 2025 before you have to think about that. And I think that by then the economy will be on such solid ground that they'll find a way to start trimming some of that spending and find a way to maybe deal with the debt, and interest rates are coming down. Anyway, so what are the economists missing? This is my short list. Now, this is a short list of what? This is really why I'm doing this entire episode. These are the things that are unique right now in history. No, not in 20 years, not in 50 years, not in 100 years. These are things that have never happened before. These are crazy, outsized aspects of the economy that most economists and analysts are not paying attention to. Or they're paying attention to one of them or two of them, but not the other. I didn't make a number here. I don't know how many there are. Okay, let's go down. I've stopped the introduction now. Let's talk about them. We have the oldest average age in the U.S. ever, except maybe post-World War I, when all those folks had been killed by the war and then by the Black Plague, or the plague. What was that thing called? Wasn't it called the Black Plague? Was that the Black? Anyway, I'm confused all of a sudden in my history. Anyway, the massive pandemic that we had during and after World War I. So we've got this hugely the oldest population, and that's 60 years after I think we had the youngest population, maybe in not history, but for a very long time. But this is definitely a very old population, and it matters. We have the beginnings of the largest wealth transfer in history as aging baby boomers and even the final folks from the Great Generation. As that wealth is transferred, it's going to have an impact, massive impact. Nobody knows exactly what that impact is going to be, and there are very few people who seem to be trying to figure it out. There are some people that are beginning to talk about it. I've been talking about it for 15 years because I love demographics. It's going to happen. We need to be talking about it and figuring out what the impact is. I can already see impact among my friends as they're like me. I've done it too. Already sending money down into the younger generations in helping with colleges and helping with buying houses, in just sending out money. So yeah, okay. Next, we have the lowest birth rate ever. This is historical. Worldwide, US-wide, we have such a low birth rate. And what do you do about that low birth rate? Countries across the world are starting to struggle with this low birth rate, having to change policies completely. Japan allowing immigrants, allowing people to come into the country on permanent visas. Never happened before. We've got Singapore paying people $7,000 to have babies. This is going to be a big deal. I'm telling you, this is not going to change things. We have the lowest marriage rate ever, and those folks who are getting married are getting married later and later and later. Nothing like this anytime in history in terms of these old children, people who are in their late 20s, who are not adults yet and who are not acting like adults yet. Nothing like it. So then we have the greatest government stimulus ever during peacetime. Even in war, there's not this kind of a stimulus that takes place during war. You can't afford it. You've got to put it into the war effort. So this was a peacetime situation where we had this pandemic and the government decided to just throw gobs of money into the economy. And now that's what's been throwing things off for the last 2 years, the combination of the pandemic and all this huge amounts of money that were thrown into the pot. And I saw reports today that the middle class, basically their wealth grew by 37% over those 3 years. Their wealth grew by 37%, not the rich. The rich grew even more, the middle class. Anyway, we have the fastest ever increase in the Fed interest rate over the last year and a half, from basically 0 to 5%. Never happened before in such a short period of time. We've had the worst ever drop in bond values. Now, that's totally tied exactly to that increase in the Fed, but maybe we would have had a fairly substantial increase in the bond yields, even if the Fed hadn't moved, but not nearly like what happened, and the bonds wouldn't have dropped nearly as fast. Now we're sitting with the opposite. We've got the lowest, this crushed bond market, and you got to love something that's on the cheap. That's not investment advice. None of this is investment advice. Anyway, so then we've got a huge concentration of wealth in the over 55 population. Again, nothing like it in the history of the world. I mean, it's massive, massive wealth, and all of it is sitting in the hands of the old folks. What does that mean? What is that going to do? How do old folks deal with that kind of wealth way differently than when it's spread more evenly across different age categories? Old folks, they spend it on travel and stuff. They're not buying new homes. They might be buying new cars. Anyway, how does that affect the business? Nobody is paying attention to this. We have the lowest of inventory of homes available for sale ever as a percentage of the population. I don't care how you look at it. Yes, of course, when there was half the population, you wouldn't, but you know what I'm talking about. 4 years ago, we talked about extremely low inventories of homes before the pandemic, and then it just got worse and worse and worse. It's way less. It's something like 40% of the amount of homes available for sale right now compared to pre-pandemic, when helping my real estate friend, Bill Rayman, who you can see his number down below if you need a loan. 4 years ago, I was writing blogs for him that was talking about the fact that we were at historic lows in terms of inventory available for sale. So what's the impact? When will that change? How is that affecting rents? How is that affecting decision-making on the part of people? And yet we have 66%, maybe the highest ever, getting close to the highest ever, of families in the United States who own their own home. And that was the whole goal back in the 2000s. That was the whole thing that people were trying to do. So George Bush II was trying to do in terms of Fed policy, was try to get the number of people that own their own homes up and increasing. And that's what caused the entire crash in 2008. That's a whole other story. You probably think I'm wrong about that, but I could show you exactly what took place. Anyway, but now we've got it. We've got 66% of the population owning their own homes. What does that mean? And most of them, huge percentage of them, are paid off, and another huge percentage of them have the most equity ever in those homes. And then, so therefore, they have 3% interest rates, so they don't want to move. There's no chance that they're going to lose those homes due to foreclosure. They're not going to get behind on their mortgages because their mortgages are so small. Nothing like this. What kind of security? That massive security in the people that own their own homes right now. Okay, let's see. No records, but I already talked. Okay, massive cash on the sidelines, historic numbers. Last time I heard it was like 16 trillion sitting on the sidelines in money market funds and things of that nature. We have the highest peacetime deficits ever, the highest amount that the government has ever owned as a percentage of the GDP ever, even I think in war, or it's close. That stuff matters. Almost nobody in the United States is worried about missing a meal. In fact, this is even true worldwide. We are down to the point where the only places in the world that people have any kind of worry about missing a meal, are not having shelter for the night, are in places where dictators are holding up the distribution, the proper distribution. Pretty much the entire world right now gets fed and gets housed. This is historic. Nothing like it. That kind of wealth. What does that kind of wealth mean going forward? As the world gets wealthier and wealthier and wealthier, what does that mean? Okay, and then in the United States, because we're not making any babies, we have immigration numbers that are staggeringly high. And it's the only reason that the United States population is growing. What does that mean in a year? What does that mean in 2 years? What does that mean in 5 years? Who are we letting across the border during this time that we're going to be sad that we allowed to come across the border? I read multiple headlines this morning that they know that Hamas members are coming across the border. Hamas members have been caught coming across the border. Who else is coming across the border? There's probably a lot more folks that we don't want. I'm for the immigration. I'm for increasing the immigration numbers. You've probably heard me say that before. I know that doesn't sound like a conservative. Oh yeah, I'm all for bring the folks in, but bring in the ones that we want. We need vetting. We need a process. The nonsense we have right now is crazy. And what are the potential problems downstream? They could be massive. I just point you to Europe as an example. All right, how do we factor all of these things into a plan for the future that's going to protect our assets individually and as a country, and also grow the wealth of the country and individually with reasonable risk? Well, for us as individuals, this is not investment advice, but Tesla ticks every single box. The company is specifically building products and services that are at the forefront of the productivity opportunities that can be employed immediately and in the longer term. The company is well funded with $26 billion in the bank and almost no debt. Moreover, the company could easily raise capital through loans, bonds, or equity in the future if the opportunities made it necessary. The company has excellent margins, operating margins, and uses capitals at levels that are the envy of the entire business world, except for Apple, who is not a manufacturer. And the company has leadership in Elon Musk that is unparalleled in our times and maybe in all times. And he is now building the leaders of tomorrow because he can hire the very best, because everybody wants to work for Tesla. So the economy is very tricky to navigate. Nobody is going to see their predictions, to the extent they're even willing to make them, pan out every time. That gift would result in riches that would surpass even Elon's. If my predictions always came true, even close to the timing that I think they're going to come true, and I knew that, and I had a big track record, you just make decisions with regard to the stock market. It wouldn't take long at all to build billions of dollars in wealth. However, most current economists and pundits that are in a position of power or influence seem to be completely oblivious to some of the simplest major issues, such as the disruption theory and demographic analysis, not to mention something as impactful and measurable as productivity. And you heard the list. Think to yourself, which people that you listen to, which analysts, which pundits that you listen to know that list, or could make that list, could create that list, or who would even know anything, would, if you had the list in front of them, would be able to make some kind of wise commentary about that list. Well, in my very imperfect way, I try to take that entire list into consideration as I project the economy, how it might pan out in the future, and how that will impact markets, and ultimately what that means for Tesla. That's what I'm trying to do on this channel. Let me know if that list made sense. Anyway, for the immediate future, let's say in the next 6 months or so, here's what I believe we'll see. We're going to see, short of any kind of major event, since, like the war becoming a much bigger regional or even World War III, as Elon is worried about, here's what I think will happen if those things don't happen. Disinflation will become deflation. Remember, I'm not the only one saying that. Kathy Wood is saying that, and the CEO of Costco is saying that. Deflation is coming. I see the Fed lowering interest rates, not because the economy needs the help as usual, but because the high interest rates are impacting things like the federal deficit, home building and mortgages that are creating displacements in the economy for absolutely no good reason. So they will have to start lowering rates, whether that's in March or whether that's in June. I don't think it really matters very much, because you and I, as individuals and businesses, have already figured in the 5% interest rates right now. And they're already, people are already, I thought there was a meeting that I was in today that had 10 people at the meeting, and 2 of them had bought a house in the last month. Okay, so people are still buying homes. People are still, Brian White just bought a car, and he said he was only 6.7% interest, I think, if I remember right. Okay, the economy will not be as robust in the next 3 quarters as it apparently is going to be in this one, but it'll be fine. Finding enough qualified workers might start to become an issue again as we get, as this economy continues along well, but nothing like it was last time. And I think this time companies are going to be prepared. They're already doing it right now. They're using tech, AI, and automation in order to make sure that they can replace workers if they need workers, and workers leave, or if the workers, even if the workers stay and they need more, they're going to be doing this way more with automation and AI than they did in this last period, because they're going to be prepared for it. They've had time now to prepare for it. This administration and this Congress will do nothing significant about taxes or reducing spending, because we're in an election year. So the current known factors will continue to dominate through 2024 into 2025. And so will anything happen in 2025? That's a big question mark. But mostly because of government spending and debt, we're probably going to need some kind of smart decisions sometime. The elephant is going to materialize in the middle of the room and have to be dealt with. Well, you might disagree with some of what I just said. You might disagree with all of what I just said. Let me know. Maybe you agree with all of it. Let me know in the comments below what I've missed, what I've messed up. You can actually agree with me if you want to. Now, as Brian said yesterday, Tesla has the car lineup, the margins, the cash in the bank that will allow us to crush the competition, whatever the economy brings. And you'll find a card for that episode right here. So after hours, we've got a flat market, as I mentioned. Tesla is also flat after hours. No idea what's going to happen in the morning, but in the morning, if you show up around 7:10, I'll tell you what I think then. And I know I continue to tell you that Tesla is going to follow the NASDAQ. It has done that on Monday. It has done that on Tuesday. So I think it's going to do it on Wednesday and Thursday as well. And then after the PCE print, if that comes in strong, I think Tesla will start to outrun a strong bull market. That's kind of where I am right now. But I do think we'll get blocked up at about 75. I've mentioned that. Okay, there was one thing I did want to mention. Of course, I do want to mention. Besides did you like it? Was that any good? Was there useful to hit like, hit subscribe, and hit notify? And then, buy one of these. Send me an order. 3 of them for $65. That is a heck of a deal. 10 of them for $210. Gifts, man. Take care of your gift list right now. I mean, how many people at the office, how many friends, how many relatives can you think of right now that would get a charge out of this? It would just be fun to watch them open this really clever box, this magnetic box. I've shown it to you before, right? So we got this magnetic box with a little foam insert in there where the Cybertruck fits. Nice box. Everybody's going to love this. Everybody's going to have fun with it. I think it's the perfect gift. And if you buy it now, you're done. You don't have to think about it anymore. All right. So, and then if you haven't bought one for yourself, I don't even get it. Be sure to say camo or stainless, so that we don't have to have that back and forth conversation to figure that out. And if you're outside the country, add that $20 to whatever price point. All the information down below in the description. And then down in the description as well is how you would sign up for Patreon, where you could get one of these for free if you join at the $10 level. And thank you for the really significant number of people joining Patreon the last 2 weeks. That has been so appreciated. Okay, I think I'm out of breath. I'm out of time. I will see you in the morning bright and early. It has been great talking to you.